Welcome to Tape 7 in the Instructor Series, Patience, Creativity, and Self-Mastery. I'm your host, Ed Hutchison. Thanks for joining me. As we know, it is not enough to master others. The key to success in life is mastering the self. We will discuss 5 steps that lead to mastering the self. Along the way, we will learn creativity and intuition, and develop an understanding of the key role patience plays in accomplishing these things. The first step is acceptance. We have to accept that we can succeed, that we can indeed do anything that we set our minds to. Now, you can't do everything, but you can do anything. Among the many reasons people give me why they cannot do anything, the most common is that they come from a dysfunctional background. Often I hear about the troubles people have in their personal lives, with their childhoods, with their family members, and that those things are demons which forever prevent their moving forward. I've been fortunate to travel. I've been fortunate to know people in all walks of life, people from all spiritual backgrounds, people of all faiths. The one story I have never heard is of someone reaching out through prayer or meditation to the higher power that they believe in, asking for the strength and the wisdom to succeed, perseverance necessary to do the work, and hearing the reply, "I'd like to help. As a matter of fact, I had a life of success and abundance and achievement planned for you. However, your mother is such a bad person, my hands are tied." Or, "I'm sorry, your father's an alcoholic. There's nothing I can do." And I don't expect I ever will hear of that experience. Because we are creatures of free will, and we can move forward, and we can succeed if we're willing to walk the walk, to do the work, and to ask for help when we need it. The second step is preparation. Although we would like to think of higher awareness or creativity or intuitive breakthroughs as coming out of nowhere, most of the major insights in the history of higher awareness have come only after strenuous preparation. There are essentially 3 parts to the preparation stage: define the problem, frame the question, gather information. Defining the problem and framing the question are essential to the creative process. The clarity of the question almost always determines the clarity of the answer. Think about doing a search on the internet, or if you're not familiar with that, think about looking up information through an electronic encyclopedia. If you were to type in the word trees, you would be confronted with pages and pages of information. On the other hand, if you limited your search to Dutch elm disease, the information retrieved would be very specific. Your intuition is capable of connecting you to an information base far more vast than the internet or any encyclopedia. Consequently, it needs specific direction in order to retrieve a specific answer. Taking time to think through exactly what it is you need to know may lead to intuitive solutions to complex problems. In 1939, Jonas Salk was involved in a series of laboratory experiments on the flu. He posed this question to himself: is it or is it not true that you must first be infected to become immune? According to Salk, he prayed and meditated, and he heard the answer, "Go ahead, design the right experiment." He designed a series of experiments, and in doing so discovered that, yes, it is possible to become immune without being infected. The answer pre-exists. What people think of as the moment of discovery is really the discovery of the correct question. In addition, the problem also needs to have a tremendous importance to you. It must matter. Searching for creativity in an answer to a hypothetical question doesn't work. In describing his search for a new design for an electric dynamo, Tesla, the famous Russian inventor, not the rock band, said, "With me, it's a sacred vow, a question of life and death. I knew that I would perish if I failed." The final part of the preparation stage, gathering information, requires that we do the necessary groundwork. Creativity favors the prepared mind, said Roy Rowan. He wrote the book The Intuitive Manager. He pointed out that even the most intuitive CEO does his homework to generate educated hunches. The intuitive inspirations that launched major corporations came about as the final stage of a long, slow fermentation process. Intuitive sparks can appear to emerge spontaneously, but hovering behind them are usually periods of intensive preparation or years of disciplined training. In professional fighting or competition karate, the most accomplished performers claim their peak performances never occur when they are consciously thinking of how to perform. Inspired fighting, they say, is conducted with utter spontaneity, in which years of experience and training are compressed into split seconds of decision-making. By intensively examining a problem, deeply intending to solve it, and learning even the most obscure facts about it, we set the stage for higher awareness, breakthrough, and self-mastery. The next step is incubation, or patience. This is so important that I put it in the title of this tape. And it's so important because it is so difficult. To the Western mind, to our analytical mind, incubation, or patience, feels like doing nothing. We also have a lifetime of negative associations with patience. When you were very young, and the days leading up to Christmas drug on and on, ever slower and slower, what did your parents say? Be patient. How did you feel about being patient? Most of us hate being patient. And yet, in terms of the creative process, it is a very powerful step towards reaching the breakthrough you seek. The difficulty here is that in order to let a solution incubate, you must let go of the problem. In her book, Time Management for Unmanageable People, Ann Cooper wrote, "There are two ways to approach life, time, and work. One way is the logical, practical, convergent way. Define a task, get it done. The other is the innovative, intuitive, divergent way. Define a task, then do something else." Many people I have worked with have tremendous trouble with this step. A key aspect of our culture is the constant attempt to fill the void, to keep busy at any cost, to keep the mind distracted at any cost. Where there is impatience, anxiety, and pressure, there are bound to be routine patterns and answers based on the past. In order for the creative juices to flow, we need to shut off the part of the brain that has been laboring so hard to solve the problem. Relaxing the logical, analytical function of the mind opens up space for intuitive insights. This may explain why many creative insights come during sleep, especially in dreams. or in the state between sleep and wakefulness that you experience late at night or early in the morning. In addition to these altered states of consciousness, the history of intuitive breakthrough is filled with story after story of creative illuminations that occurred when people were on vacation, distracted by the mundane, or even just taking a shower. At the start of certain days, Beethoven was known to say, "Nothing comes to me today. We shall try another time." The next step is illumination. If the first steps were followed, illumination happens all by itself. The answer comes when it is least expected, but almost always when it is most needed. Illumination is the moment of creative breakthrough, the moment of the intuitive experience that leads to higher awareness. The information or solution often comes in metaphorical or symbolic language. The process of illumination requires learning to recognize the language of intuition and nurturing, that sometimes vague feelings and signals are often accompanied and preceded by a flash of insight. Conrad Hilton, whose success in the hotel business is legendary, wrote in his book, Be My Guest, "When I have a problem and I have done all that I can do to figure it out, I keep listening in sort of an inside silence until something clicks and I feel the right answer." The final step is verification. The verification stage involves reconciling the information we get from our internal, intuitive source with the realities of the world around us. In the world of business and finance, this is the time to turn on the computers and let the number crunchers have at it. Chemical formulas, glimpsed in a dream, are tested in the lab. The mathematical equation that came in a flash is checked and double-checked. Our educational system trains us to discount feelings and hunches in favor of analytic data and expert opinion. Training the creative process so that it grows as we grow requires that we take our intuitions and our emotions out of the closet, validate them, and then look to see if the external evidence matches. An image I like to use is that of a stagecoach drawn by powerful horses. One horse is intuition. One horse is emotion. One are analytical data, and so forth. We hold the reins to all these powerful parts of ourselves, and we need to guide them to work together towards meeting our goals. Now, here's your assignment. Here's how you're going to practice developing your creativity and your intuition to raise your self-awareness, to enhance your self-mastery. You're going to write down a question or problem to which you would like an intuitive answer. Remember that clarity and involvement are the two most important factors. Your question doesn't need to be filled with details, but it should be focused. For example, instead of asking, "Should I relocate?" a better question would be, "Should I relocate to the Pacific Northwest in the summer?" Also, your question should deal with an issue that is of significance to you. Honing in on exactly what the issue is can take some soul searching. It can take meditation. Remember that emotional turmoil and wishful thinking often cloud the process of focusing. For example, you might be tempted to ask your intuitive faculty whether you should have another baby when the real issue is a troubled marriage. Take time out to sit quietly and meditate on what issues are truly important to you. When you're ready, write down your questions. Then you'll enter the step of incubation. You'll be practicing patience. This is really a non-step. That is to say, there is nothing to do but try to free up your mind from worrying about this problem. If you have done your preparation and framed your question properly, the only task you face is waiting. Waiting is one of the most difficult things for us to do because our culture bombards us from every side to keep busy. We really do have to make an active effort to do nothing. For the incubation period, find activities that will take your mind off the problem. Take a day off, get some exercise, cook a nice meal. In addition, there are some things you can do to help access your intuitive side. Playing an instrument, meditating, yoga, and yes, even karate practice. You can't force an illumination, so don't try. For the illumination stage of the creative process, it's a good idea to keep a personal journal. Keep track of your dreams, your visions, your feelings, your hunches. Writing is an ideal way to prime the intuitive process without forcing it. Be open to the possibility that your illumination may occur at any time and may come in a form you don't expect. Daydreams, symbols, and metaphors can all be pieces of the intuitive puzzle. The trick is in interpreting what they mean. Be watchful for the illumination that strikes mind and body at the same time. An intuitive insight is not only a mental recognition of the right answer, but has an emotional charge as well. If you are on the right track, you will experience a sense of excitement. A note about waiting. Often our impatience gets the better of us, and we start looking for intuitive answers in everything that happens. That is not the creative process. That is superstition. When you hear yourself saying things like, "Oh, I left my keys on the table. What does that mean?" You know you're trying to force the process. And the final stage of your practice, verification. To validate the information you receive, ask yourself, is it practical? Can I write a 3-step plan of action? Intuitive information is always practical and always directs our next steps. One of my students asked a question about whether or not to ask for a raise at work. The answer he received was to quit his job altogether. He realized that it had been getting harder and harder for him to get to work on time, and that little things were becoming big problems. His intuition had, in fact, addressed the real issue behind his question. His job was no longer satisfying, and something needed to change. A raise would not make things better. Bear in mind that these 4 steps are simply an attempt to describe a process that is both natural and organic. The process of creativity remains mysterious and wonderful, just as it differs from person to person. I suggest one final exercise. Think back to a time in your life when you felt you made a truly important breakthrough, a period of time where your consciousness was raised, where your level of self-mastery is enhanced, and see whether you can detect these stages in your own process. Ask yourself, what was the problem you were trying to solve? What led up to your moment of illumination? What were you doing when you had your insight? What did it feel like? Did the information come in symbols, dreams, or feelings? The key to developing your intuitive ability lies in figuring out how the process of raising awareness works for you. Let's take this time to meditate. You should be in a quiet place, relaxed and comfortable. Close your eyes. Visualize in the very center of your brain, bright golden sphere. Visualize the sphere expanding, growing greater and greater in size throughout infinity until it encompasses the entire universe. We're going to meditate on points that raise awareness, that enhance consciousness. The first point is, if at first you don't succeed, surrender. Not surrender as in passive submission. Passive submission plays no part in this kind of surrendering, except insofar as you give up striving. Work with absorption. Surrender yourself to the task at hand. Striving includes the concern for self-image, the need to outdo others, the wish to impress, anxiety about living up to the expectations of a boss or a spouse or a teacher. In this kind of striving, each act is a competitive one, an accumulation of false superiority. Think about losing yourself in the task. Picture yourself developing excellence merely for the sake of excellence. Feel the energy that surrounds you. Bring it into you. Use it to fuel your excellence. The next point that assists us on our path to self-mastery is pledge to yourself to destroy judgment and create curiosity. If you have trouble taking risks or knowing when to take a risk, you are probably afraid of stumbling over the blocks thrown up by your own mind. If you lack the confidence to create, you are almost certainly tuned in to VOJ, the voice of judgment. All of us have radio VOJ playing within us. By the time you are an adult, you have been criticized by friends, peers, family members, and teachers approximately 27,000 times. Those old tapes are on a loop system. They just go on and on and on, and then they start over, playing over and over in the background. Whenever you think about making something more of yourself, radio VOJ, the voice of judgment, clicks on automatically, telling you that you can't. Radio VOJ's function is to close the door on further investigation. It is the opposite of curiosity. When you hear those tapes start to play, simply turn off the radio, knowing that turning off the voice of judgment opens the door to curiosity. It opens the door to possibilities. The next point is to simply pay attention to your life. If you are paying attention at every moment, you form a new relationship to time. Your own absorption slows down time. That slowing down feeds your sense of deep appreciation, and at the same time produces more energy in an entirely magical way. By slowing down, you become more efficient, more productive, and more energetic, focusing without distraction directly on the task in front of you. Not only do you become more immersed in the moment, you become the moment. Our next point of meditation is don't think about it. True inspiration simultaneously involves thinking and non-thinking. Not thinking means being free from worry, doubts, and expectation. As soon as you turn off the VOJ and the chattering of your mind, even for a moment, self-mastery is possible because your true essence appears. And finally, follow the age-old advice to be in the world, but not of it. This means not getting caught up in the negative aspects of the situation, not considering each success as someone else's failure, not doing something in a certain way solely because that's the way it's been done before. It is virtually impossible to live in a state of intuitive breakthrough and creativity. It is virtually impossible to raise awareness and approach self-mastery and bring creativity to day-to-day life if you are attached to your role or to a particular outcome. You can be sure that almost every problem has some roots in attachment. Continue to meditate for as long as you wish. Thank you for joining me, and I'll join you again on the next tape.